Robert, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a bit difficult because I think the networks are jammed because everybody's around trying to enjoy the Christmas atmosphere. But even you must confess, it's a rather weird Africa Cup of Nations. The very first time that we're seeing one during Christmas. What is your take on it?
Christmas, and of course, it's a weird AFCON this Christmas. And let me say good evening to you. Merry Christmas. Once again, and of course, talking about the AFCON, it's a particularly beautiful one, I must confess. Talking about the fact that it started last week and we are getting into almost a full stretch of it, looking at the conclusion of our match day one fixtures. For this period, for most Nigerian journalists, so let me do a quick shout out to most Nigerian journalists who are covering the event. I think it is weird because typically by this time, everyone is at home enjoying the festivities with family and friends, and of course, at this point in time, they are at the front lines, trying to get as much content, trying to keep fans updated, trying to cover the game the best they can, and of course, ensure that our coverage is not lacking in terms of all that has to do with the AFCON. So on that note, I say big ups to everyone out there, and of course, all the very best to them. But for the AFCON, weird, but I think we're enjoying it as it is.
I must confess, it's never been done before. The very first Africa Cup of Nations held during Christmas and New Year. This is one for the record books. But Robert, let me ask you, we've seen the first round of games. We've seen all the teams in action. Who has impressed you so far?
Well, I think it's not difficult for me to pick. My first team to impress me is Senegal, looking at how they've played, or looking at the intensity of the game, the quick transition, and of course the control they exert over the course of the first game that they played. The second team is Tunisia. I saw is Algeria, I beg your pardon. For Algeria, it was a beautiful game against Sudan. And of course, for Riyad Mahrez, he is ready. He came to the party, and of course, he delivered for his country. The third team I am impressed with so far is also Morocco. Well, they didn't get off the blocks firing at all cylinders, but they were able to ease themselves into the game, and hopefully they will be able to get the ball rolling tomorrow. For Achraf Hakimi, no action for him yet, and I believe that fans are looking to see him play tomorrow as it is. And of course, from the video, you see that he's training quite well. It looks like his movement is smooth. And of course, it remains to be seen if he's going to get some action tomorrow. Then, for the underdogs, I've been impressed with how Angola has played. I'm impressed with Botswana as well as Tanzania. Tanzania, I am particularly impressed with because 5 of their starting 11 play in the Tanzanian league. And of course, they are from the clubs like Azam, Club Africain, as well as one of the other top teams right there in the country.
You're probably talking about Young Africans and Simba, right?
Made the game very difficult for the Super Eagles, and of course, I think those are the teams I am impressed with so far in the tournament.
But you didn't mention the Super Eagles. You're not impressed with how they performed against Tanzania. They got the win, which is exactly what we wanted to see, right?
I am wearing the Super Eagles jersey, so I don't need to talk about that as it is. But I think for the Super Eagles, since you're actually forcing me into this corner, I think for the Super Eagles, I would say they are neither here or there. Good goals scored in the game against Tanzania. Very good goals scored, particularly the one scored by Ademola Lookman. But I think that the team's transition is what they really need to work with. And there's a lot of question as touching the fact that can the Super Eagles play against teams who play fast-paced football, teams who turn over the ball quickly, teams who recycle the ball quickly, teams who rely on a lot of pace, most especially around their wings, and of course are down in the middle. Can the Super Eagles compete? Can they hold their own against teams like that? We have seen how fast Egypt can play. We have seen how fast Morocco, Algeria, particularly the North African teams, we have seen how fast they can play. And I worry for the Super Eagles, most especially in that game against Tunisia on Sunday, because if they do not get their acts right, it might be an unpleasant result. I am not saying it is going to be doom on that day, but we need to play much more better than we did against Tanzania to get anything positive from the game against Tunisia.
Well, it's just a few days away where the Super Eagles will be taking on the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia. I don't think you've shown, enough faith in the Nigeria national team. But one thing I know about Nigeria, they always seem to prove everyone wrong, especially when no one is backing them. So we'll be hoping that, they can do the business against Tunisia on Saturday. But my producer is reminding us that there are matches being played and goals being scored, which means that the top scorers in the Africa Cup of Nations are also an interesting fixture right now. Riyad Mahrez, captain of the Algerian national team with 2 goals. Nicholas Jackson, striker with the Senegalese national team with 2 goals. Brahim Diaz of Morocco with 2 goals as well. No, I think that's actually incorrect, because if I do recall, it was El Kabi who scored the other goal for Morocco in that 2-0 win over Comoros. So that is not correct. Mohamed Salah with 1 goal and Ademola Lookman with 1 goal as well. There's quite a lot of players on 1 goal currently at the Africa Cup of Nations. Now, Robert, let's talk about the fan turnout at the tournament. It seems to have risen a little after the opening round. We heard that there's been as many as over 200,000, like 236,000 spectators attending the first 12 matches across Morocco. The figure marks an improvement on the 197,000 fans recorded after round 1. That was at the Africa Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast. So there's been a remarkable attendance rate from the last AFCON to this one. And that's despite the fact that there are challenging weather conditions in several host cities in Morocco. Morocco recorded the highest attendance on opening day with 60,000 fans, more than 60,000 fans, watching their opening win over Comoros, while Cameroon versus Gabon drew 35,200 spectators. And Egypt's match against Zimbabwe also attracted as many as more than 28,000 fans. And all 6 host cities recorded attendances as every team completed their first group game. But the honest truth, Robert, if you look at these games and look at the stadiums, there is a remarkable void. Empty seats. It's very noticeable. And because of that, we hear that CAF and the LOC have decided that after the first 20 minutes, if the stadium isn't full, they will throw the gates open. So it's basic. Why don't they just throw it open from the start? Because you and I could just stand outside the stadium and say, well, in another 20 minutes, they open the gates and we can go in for free.
Well, I think I would start by commending the stadiums right there in Morocco. Beautiful stadiums, absolutely beautiful stadiums. From the stadium in Fez to Agadir to Marrakech to Casablanca, beautiful stadiums they have right there, and of course, beautiful ambiances around the stadiums at the AFCON. For the fan turnout, it's, let me say, just like you said, in the opening game, it was a packed house, and it is expected because it is the host nation, and Moroccans love their football, and they came out en masse to support the team against Comoros in the opening fixture. Like you said, a lot of empty seats in subsequent games that has followed, and I would want to play the devil's advocate in this particular one. I would say maybe the fans are gradually warming up to the tournament, and possibly in the second round of games we are set to see as from tomorrow, the turnout will improve. And another thing I most likely will lean towards is the fact that the weather conditions, like you said, have been challenging. The first game, the rain was very, very heavy. And for the guys right there in Fez, they all have confirmed how very cold it is out there. And for you to go out to the stadium to watch a match in freezing cold weather, you definitely have to be prepared to battle the elements. And some of these things you can say might be the reasons why the fans are not turning up yet as they should. But like I said, in subsequent games, we should see improvement in match attendances. And for CAF as well as the local organizing committee, saying that if the stadium is still empty, or in this case, noticeably void, then the gate will turn open after 20 minutes. I think it is a case of just trying to salvage the situation and, of course, encourage fans to come out and see the games. Like you said, well, I think if you and I were in Morocco right now, I most likely would just maybe enjoy enjoy some conversation with you under a tree, wait for 20 minutes to get by, and of course we can make our merry way into the stadium to enjoy the game. And of course, out of 90 minutes, we'll enjoy premium football of 70 minutes. I think it is good calculation for us. But I believe that for the second round of games, attendances will improve.
I totally agree. But then there's also the fact that the honest truth is Africa is a relatively poor continent. It's not easy for fans to come up with the money to travel. Yeah, you don't agree. I mean, how many people can afford a return ticket to Morocco? How many? I can't afford one. I mean, and that's that. And also to sit in Morocco for 1 month, pay hotel bills, pay transportation costs. It's not going to be easy. So moving across Africa has always been notoriously difficult because of visa issues. They're not forgetting the fact that a lot of African countries are not interconnected by flights. So it's pretty difficult for African fans to make their way across the continent. So we'll be hoping that improves in the future, because spending power is very, very important to the Africa Cup of Nations, because only then can more fans enjoy the games, no matter the country in which it is being hosted. This talk about moving AFCON to every 4 years as against 2. Now, there have been so many people talking about it, so many people for it, so many people against it. Robert, you are going to decide this once and for all. The fate of African football is resting on your shoulders. Tonight, you will tell us, should the Africa Cup of Nations be every 2 years or every 4 years?
I think I'll go with every 2 years. Every 2 years is much more better, and it keeps the rhythm of the tournament alive. For AFCON, it's a unique tournament, and of course, looking at other tournaments we have around the world, the CONCACAF, the Copa America, the Asian Cup, we have not heard in recent times that these tournaments have been shifted or they've been a readjustment to them, except in the case of Corona back then that prompted a shift in the Olympics. And it was a global event that brought about a shift in the date and of course at the time of the Olympic Games. But for CAF, the 4 years, I think it's not looking good on paper for me. And I think that is going to be much more of a damage than any form of improvement to the tournament as it is. It is bad enough that the tournament cannot be hosted during the summer, as the Europeans or the rest of the world know it to be, because the so-called summer in Europe is when Africa sees quite a significant volume of rain on the continent. And of course, we all know how the months of June, July, August, September can be in Nigeria because of the kind of rains we have across the country. And this is the reason why the AFCON most likely cannot be hosted during that time frame. So for Africa right now, we have made our peace with the fact that the AFCON is most likely going to be hosted between January and February of whatever year we have decided it to be hosted. But right now, putting a 4-year clock on it, I think it disrupts a lot of history, rhythm, excitement that the tournament brings every 2 years. So for me, I'll be sitting in the corner of those who want it every 2 years. And of course, I don't think I am a fan of the 4-year event.
Okay. Robert, what about those who are saying that, scarcity creates value? That if you make it every 4 years, everybody's excited, even more excited to see a tournament in 4 years rather than in 2 years. Sponsors are willing to pay even more because they know that in 4 years' time they would have gathered enough money to sponsor. There are also those who are saying that, look, European clubs don't want to buy African players because that they know that they lose them every 24 months. A case in point was the fact that in last summer, Victor Osimhen was available for transfer, but none of the major European clubs looked at him, only Galatasaray. Are these valid arguments?
I don't think they're valid arguments. Whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, did Victor Osimhen get a club? Yes, he got a club. And when he got a club, we all saw what he did to ensure that the club ended the season on a high. Talking about double champions right there in Turkey. For Galatasaray, they won the Turkish Super League. They also won the Turkish Cup. That is the value an African player, a Nigerian player, brings to the table. For Atalanta, we also saw the same thing with Ademola Lookman. He literally, single-handedly won that final against Bayer Leverkusen for them. And that was their first major trophy in about 30 plus years or thereabouts. So that the AFCON comes every 2 years and African players are not available for it, it is nobody's fault. That is the tradition. That is the heartbeat of African football. And of course, there is nothing anybody can do about it. Every 4 years, there will still be that complaint. You talked about the fact that scarcity brings about prestige,
brings value,
high value. Then you have to look at it from this argument. Why is the UEFA Champions League held every year? Why is it not held every 2 years or every 4 years? Despite the fact that the UEFA Champions League is a yearly event, the prestige, the excitement, and of course the value of the tournament remains the same. Every European player that plays club football wants to win the UEFA Champions League, and that is arguably the biggest tournament, the biggest medal or trophy a club or a player aspires to win in their international career as a player. For some, they will even tell you that playing in the tournament alone is fulfillment of all their dreams and aspirations. Playing it alone, not even getting to the finals, not getting to the semifinals, they will tell you that
Robert,
playing in it alone is enough for them.
You
so
have
for the AFCON, that it is played every 2 years does not diminish what it brings to the table or what it adds to the football.
You have made a compelling argument. I cannot argue with that, right? I honestly cannot argue with that. So maybe we should actually hire you to go out and plead the case for the Africa Cup of Nations at CAF, because you have made a very, very compelling argument, one that I honestly cannot argue with. Many thanks to Robert Olimene, who joined us tonight, giving his own insights regarding the state of African football. And Robert, once again, I salute you for that very compelling argument of how the Africa Cup of Nations should remain every 2 years instead of 4 years. You said something, and I take that. I'll probably go to tweet that on X. The UEFA Champions League is held every year. The value is not diminished. It probably even grows even higher. So there's no reason why we should do the same by diminishing the value and frequency of the Africa Cup of Nations. Many thanks to Robert Olumene.